Greetings, Legionnaires, and welcome to another episode of Mano e Mano, the show where we put two fictional characters against one another in the pit. Joe, thank you for joining me once again.
Jimmy, I won't miss it.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you wouldn't miss it because we've got one crazy fight night tonight. Joe.
We do. It's an interesting one.
Tell us who our combatants are, my friend.
Are we ready?
Not ready.
All right, in the blue corner, at a staggering 6'2" and a hefty, stout 200 pounds, it's Darth Vader. And his competitor this evening, hailing from the red corner, at a towering 9'2", weight unavailable, we have Sauron. Woo! Ding, ding, ding.
That's right. We have two Dark Lords fighting to the death in the pit, which we've described before as being maybe relatively the size of a football field, an American football field, mind you. They kind of dug in a little bit, and there's
Is there any other kind?
Well, apparently there is, Joe. Apparently there is. Big, crazy vibranium cage over the top of it. Something they couldn't break out of very easily. So they have to fight each other. They just both get teleported there with their abilities and any weapons they probably have on them at the time. I'm going to briefly run through the list of abilities that these two guys have. And boy, howdy, there's a lot of them.
Jimmy, we don't have all night, man. Come on.
I know. Okay, let's start with Darth Vader. Okay. So he can basically disintegrate anything in an area if he wants to. He also has a force field. He can project. He can kind of make force lightning. It's not the same thing, but he's got it's something similar to that, but it's a little bit different. He's got, his force grip, his telekinesis that everybody loves. He can use his lightsaber super duper well, and he can throw it like a boomerang. He has levitation, which, believe it or not, he can kind of float around, kind of like Magneto does as well. He has the ability to control animals. He can go invisible for short amounts of time. He can go without breathing for short amounts of time. He can enhance his healing for a little bit as well. He can be super fast. He can be super agile when he needs to be, which is kind of incredible when you think about how clunky he seems to be. He can also jump super duper far. He can also absorb energy, and that's pretty much it besides the last thing, which is precognition. Kind of think like spider sense. He can kind of see when a move is coming at him if he wants, but sometimes he can even project further into the future to see future events. So that's good old Darth Vader. Now Sauron. Now this list is kind of weird because some of it comes from the games and stuff, but we're still counting it, so just stay with me here. So he is very, very strong. He's basically above superhuman because he is basically an angel in his world. He's immune to most regular weapons. He has the ability to shapeshift. He has telekinesis. He can manipulate the world around him. He can summon meteors. He's immune to fire. He's technically immortal because if you kill him, he'll just keep coming back. And he can shadow walk over short distances like teleportation. And that's pretty much the big ones for fighting here. Now, Joe, when I picked this originally, I thought to myself, hey, this would be kind of cool. You got two Dark Lords fighting it out in the pit. Probably look pretty sweet, right? And hopefully would be like something that would be a pretty fair fight. For you right now, after hearing that stuff, do you have one that kind of stands out to you? Who do you think has an edge?
He can manipulate the world around him. He's basically immortal.
Okay, that's true. I mean, that's the thing. I was like,
yeah. I mean, I kind of thought about it coming in, even when we proposed the thought, right? I was like, yeah, Sauron? But I also don't know a heck of a lot about Vader, but I know Vader's kind of beatable, a little more mortal, if you will, right?
Sure. Yeah.
But, I don't know. Sauron, tough cookie to face. I mean, even if, technically, the Force isn't even a trump card here because Sauron has the same thing. Well, telekinesis. I mean, what Vader, the only thing that he can do that Sauron can't is project himself into the future to see something before it happens, kind of thing?
Kind of, yeah. It doesn't even seem like that's going to matter too much in this fight either. And I know where a lot of people, myself included, would get kind of confused because you see Sauron in the beginning of Fellowship of the Ring. Spoilers for that if you haven't seen it yet. But he gets his hand chopped off, which has the one ring on it, and he gets defeated in that moment. It's like, oh man, some dude with a broken sword beat him? Come on. But actually, if you go into the lore, a ton of very powerful people came together to fight Sauron, and it just happened to be that Isildur kind of struck that fatal blow. It wasn't like he was bested by just one man. But that's where I was kind of thinking, okay, well, if it came down to that, you know, if like Sauron wanted to go in as he did in that movie with his mace and just go up and fight Vader, I say Vader would kind of, you know, cut the mace in half and then just like stab him. But I don't even think that would matter too much in the long run.
And at the same time, I mean, so how do we classify a lightsaber? It's still like, I mean, is it above a mortal weapon? You know, like they say that Sauron's invulnerable to any mere weapon.
That's true, except for like an elven blade, because he, like I said, he does get his hand lopped off, so it's like maybe he could get dismembered a bit, which would be pretty sick to see Vader be like, whoa, like lose his arm. Guys, like what? Like, yeah, that's a good point. And the problem is we're kind of comparing. Not that Star Wars is sci-fi; it's more space opera, but that compared to like legit magic, that gets pretty nuts. All I think though is I don't see this battle happening in an instant. I see them kind of both, you know, showing up, either coming out of the cages we put them in and walking out, or just teleporting out there.
We put them in cages?
Well, they come out, you know, they got to come out. They're like gladiators.
I don't know how we got them in those cages, but we must be tougher than I thought.
Well, it was the combination. I told Vader that Padme was in there, and in Sauron, I was like, we've got like 9 other rings for you. And he's like, oh, really? It's a classic Sauron impersonation right there.
Sorry, the power's out. Lights aren't on.
He's like, I could wait. I got time. He's like, just whatever shows up. He's a very reasonable Dark Lord. But I think they come out. I feel like Vader would probably start with a little bit of like long range, like force choke, just kind of like seeing or just kind of looking at him, not even putting his hand up, and just maybe like, we'll see how that works. Sauron just like, I feel like he could dispel it maybe with his own telekinesis. I don't know how telekinesis, you know, fights. Like he could start choking him, and then he'd be like, all right. Then they start throwing rocks at each other, which I think would be great. Throw debris. And then I think eventually you get a moment where just like, you know, Sauron kind of like starts to be like on a pillar, or starts to raise himself up above like Vader, and like start like he's changing the world, and like the meteors start coming in, and Vader's like, oh goodness. So he's like trying to get in close with the lightsaber.
Hold on, meteors can't come in because we've got the vibranium force field thingy above her. You know?
Normally I'd say that's true, and obviously it is, but you know, he could just make some with rocks, man. I mean, you just bring them up from the ground and then you just throw them in really fast. It has to be very fast because it's not very high ceiling, so you just make like a bunch of boulders. Anyways, throwing all those things, you know, Vader dodging in and out of all these things. He's like, you know, front flipping off the rocks. He's trying to get in close. He goes for that fatal blow, but he's like, oh, like after he stabs him, it's like, or slashes. I don't know. I think if Sauron gets a hand on him, I think it's probably pretty bad. You have to remember this too. If Sauron's like an angel, Anakin was basically a human. That's why it's hard for me to think about it like as a fair fight anymore, because you're taking something that's like eternal and super duper powerful against like a really powerful cybernetically enhanced human. You know what I mean?
Yeah, unfortunately, nail on the head. You're right. But I mean, I feel like there'd be a little bit of. It'd be interesting for a minute. I mean, if Darth Vader could do something very agile, because I mean, I feel like Sauron, yeah, all his abilities great, almighty powerful type deal, but I don't see him being like the fast, agile character.
That's why I think a melee fighter.
Vader can get close and cut something off, you know, and is Sauron even anything without the ring?
He's actually quite powerful still without the ring. Okay. I looked into that too. I was like, oh, I was like, ooh, like he's still pretty good. I'm not saying.
I don't know why he cares about the ring so much. He's all right without it.
So there's a few scenarios here. It's like, okay, so he lops off the hand, and then you know Sauron goes away, but that's not like a full death. He could come back, but even then, if let's say Darth Vader puts the ring on, he might succumb to that pretty quickly, to that evil will, and then he could just end up being a servant of Sauron. So it's like, you have a dark side user in Darth Vader, and then you have Sauron, which is like all the evil in the world. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like that's where it gets tough. It's like, it's not a super fair fight, but I still think it'd be pretty cool, and I would love to see them melee duke it out for a little bit. Just Darth Vader dashing around and just like, you know, chopping him down, and he's just like, oh, okay, all right, and then they kind of finishes it up. How do you think Sauron deals that final blow, though? Does he kind of grab his chest, kind of, and then break that, and then try to like break his face or something? Like, how does Sauron, you know, do that? Is it with the mace?
Yeah, I think he's gonna get a hand on him and literally just pin him. You know, crush the front manifold, whatever. And I almost want to think that he's gonna bring an overhead swing, whoosh, and just crush the head down. Just
I like
the
that.
head crumple, you know.
That is really cool.
That's
like
my
that
thought. That's my
Yeah.
thought. The second he gets a hand on him, it's over.
Now, I don't know if you like lop off like the helmet or head of Sauron, because there's not really like a physical presence to him. I wonder if like he could still fight, because I would love to see Vader just take his head off like really quickly, like go, you know, past him and kind of look behind him, and then, you know, Sauron just kind of turns, like picks his head, and like he's just like,
Yeah,
you know?
or I mean, Sauron will just like shapeshift and shadow walk away.
Dude, yeah, that'd be so cool. He goes for it, and then he just turns to like smoke, and it's like yeah. I think Sauron plays with Vader for a bit, but I think Darth Vader at the end of the day, he takes it. I think we agree on this, Joe, right? I'm in the same boat pretty
one
much.
more time?
Sauron takes the day.
Yeah, okay.
Sauron takes.
I might have been hearing things. I thought you said Vader takes the
I hope I didn't say that. People will be like, what? We'll just make two versions of this, so that way whoever you wanted to win, they won. Congratulations. No, I'm just kidding. Definitively, Sauron.
Yeah, definitively Sauron. I can't argue it the other way. I'm sorry. Darth Vader's pretty badass. I've seen bits and pieces of the Star Wars movies, and Vader's pretty cool. I have seen what was the one he was in most recently? Rogue One?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that moment. He's slicing, chopping through that hallway in the ship. That was pretty cool. I mean, yeah, he's an intense character, pretty badass, tough, menacing, and intimidating. But I mean, put him and Sauron on a pedestal together, like our image shows. But I think the choice is inevitably clear. So yeah, now that we're kind of nearing the end of this thing, dear viewer/listener, rewind, listen to the list of powers again between the two, compare your own thoughts, and comment. Let us know what you think. I'm curious to know who you think would win in the battle. Is there any redeeming, I don't want to say redeeming quality, that's probably the wrong expression, but is there anything in Darth Vader's arsenal that could possibly bring him to the level capable of beating Sauron?
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm so sorry. I love Darth Vader so much, and I think that there's the chance, you know, that Vader would take him in a melee fight. And I'm not sure if we have ever established what would happen with an immortal being like Sauron if you like actually did kill him, but he just comes back. So it's like, plus I don't even know if the pit could hold this guy. That's what I'm saying. Like Sauron might be like busting that, like destroying that pit, turning the world and stuff, and be like, we lost control of one of our gladiators. So yeah, I do agree with Joe though. If you do have something that you think in either camp doesn't make sense or we forgot to mention, please let us know. We want to know who your winner is. But yeah, go back and listen to that first part.
Well, clearly, Jimmy, we forgot about Darth Vader's death stare. No, I'm just kidding.
He just stares on. He's like, I got you. Which I thought, researching him, and they're like, he can hold his breath. I'm like, okay, that's good in space. And they're like, or for stealth missions. So I was just thinking, yeah, that makes sense, because he would kind of suck on a stealth mission. He's like, all right, go over there. He's like, Vader, shot. And he's like, oh, got it, you know.
15 seconds later,
it's just like, it seems like he can go a long time without holding his breath, which is pretty cool. So I like that. But yeah, maybe we need to give Vader a better shot. Maybe against somebody like Deathstroke would be a little more the problem is the Force puts Vader in a new category where he's like in between like a pretty powerful individual and then like the super powerful individual. So it's like it's hard.
Yeah, part of me was just really jazzed about getting Sauron on the list. I think he's pretty freaking awesome.
Yeah.
Is there anybody else that's more like impressive and intimidating than he is?
Yeah, he's sick. His look is pretty good.
Yeah, and even the worlds of Marvel and DC, I just don't know that there's anybody that kind of compares. And those Lord of the Rings movies,
Yeah, they're too good. Well, and then if
I
you
like
go
how
to
they show him off too.
Yeah, he's brief, but it's cool. The problem is, like, he is actually, like, the follower of a guy named Morgoth, who's, like, even more powerful than he is, so it's kind of like, oh, wow, so, like, Sauron isn't, like, the tippity top. It's like, no, there's still more. It's like, whoa, Lord of the Rings gets nuts. But, like you said, Joe, he does look cool. So does Darth Vader. They both look amazing, and thanks to the artwork of Stephen Purifoy here for bringing this fight to life. It's very, very cool. And if you want to help support the show and choose who's going to battle next time, you have to just be a $10 patron over on patreon.com/criticalreviews. You can be one of our mercenaries and choose the next fight, which I think the first person that we have in the next fight is going to be Kratos. And we have a few people over there who you can vote for, and we're gonna get that one cooking soon. So thank you so much, Joe, for hanging out with me, discussing this. It's always fun to kind of hypothesize these little fights, and in my head I can see it. I can see it.
Yeah, I'm a visual person and I'm imaginative. I like to think about, how's this going down? There was a lot of blood. It was bad.
I think there's probably a lot of maybe blood on Vader's end, like whatever wasn't burned. I was thinking about that. Like,
does he have much blood left? I don't know.
Probably not too much. Yeah, but still, there'd be a little bit of, especially if he's splattered. Anyway, thank you, Joe. Thank you, everybody, for watching. And until the next Mano y Mano, just remember to adapt and overcome. See you next time. Bye-bye.